Welcome to Season 6 of the India Energy Hour podcast. This podcast explores the most pressing hurdles and promising opportunities of India's energy transition through an in-depth discussion on policies, financial markets, social movements, and science. Your hosts for this episode are Shreya J., Delhi-based energy and climate journalist, and Dr. Sandeep Pai, energy transition researcher and author. The show is produced by 101 Reporters, a pan-India network of grassroots reporters that produces original stories from rural India. If you like our podcast, please rate us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or the platform where you listen to our podcast. Your support will help us reach a larger audience. India's energy economy has started 2026 on both a chaotic and a promising note. Last year's storms of trade wars and the disarray of the country's energy supply chain have spilled into this year as well. But 2025 was also the year India crossed the threshold of 50% non-fossil fuel power generation capacity and took promising steps in nuclear energy. This year has commenced with policy shifts in the long languishing power distribution sector and trade deals with focus on sustainable development. To guide through this maze of varied developments which would impact India's energy transition and security, we spoke with Richa Mishra, seasoned energy journalist and author. Mrs. Mishra has been writing on the energy sector for more than 2 decades and has firsthand witnessed the evolution of India's energy sector and has covered notable milestones in her journalistic journey. She is currently resident editor at Hindu Business Line. Ms. Mishra also runs a podcast called Energonomics, where she unpacks the developments of oil and gas sector. Her first book, Unfilled Barrels, India's Oil Story, published in 2022, offers a ringside view of India's oil and gas sector from past to present.
Hello everyone, welcome to the brand new season 6 of the India Energy Hour. It's a new season loaded with new episodes, new guests, new topics and everything new that you can think of. We'll be exploring new areas, new avenues, new topics, some very research oriented, some controversial. We'll see how this year goes by. But to kickstart this year and this season, we have a very special guest who has been tracking this sector for close to 3 decades now, and no one could have given us a better start this year than her. Welcome to the India Energy Hour, ma'am. Very grateful and very happy to have you here.
My pleasure, and thank you both, all of you, for having me over to kick off the season, as you just said.
As I just mentioned, you have been a journalist for 3 decades now, and more than 20 years you have written on the energy sector, all aspects of it, and in your several roles as a reporter, as an editor, as a bureau chief, you have seen, what this sector has gone through, not just energy, but allied sectors of infrastructure, etc. as well. So let me just begin with asking you, what has been your journey like in journalism, how it started, what led to energy reporting. Can you tell us about that?
So, journeys in journalism started because of one man, and you grew up reading him and listening to him. That was none other than Mr. Ram. And the generation, which was my growing up generation, you had names like Mr. Sanjay Baru, Mr. N. Ram, Arun Shourie, names like these who were there and in the thick of things. So, they had quite an influence. My journey into this profession started in 1994. And, nothing like to work under the man you have always admired. He was my editor-in-chief. Mr. Ram was my editor-in-chief. And campus from college to the Hindu office, and the business line was just launched. So you can say I'm as old as business line. in the profession. So, yeah, out and out a business line product. But the person who actually shaped me, who actually nurtured me, and my writing and my thinking and everything is very, very influenced by his work, is Mr. K. Venugopal, who was my first editor in Business Line, and he was my editor for almost 11 years. And, the basic thing he taught us or he told us was that a man on the street should understand what you want to say. You're not writing for a drawing room audience. It is for everyone, and everyone should understand. His joke used to be a mommy in Mylapore, that is, an auntie in Mylapore, should also understand what you are writing. So, that influenced my writing quite a bit. And subsequently, in my career, I got to work with a man who I call a spin doctor. His writing, he can write everything in 350 words. That was Mr. T.C. Srinivasa Raghavan. Oh, what a beauty. I mean, if someone can romance with the language, it was that man. So, these were certain people who really influenced my writing. And again, Dr. Sanjay Bar was again a very, very big influence on my work and how I worked and what I did. So, it was, he was also quite a strong influence in my working and how I did. In fact, when I was doing my book also, I went to Dr. Balu and I had to say, you'll have to write a foreword for me. And he was kind enough to do that. So, your journey into journalism has been very, very interesting. And I've been asked fun comments also, Shreya. Like, I've spent my lifetime in business line. So someone has actually asked me, is it because you never got any other offers, or is the organization just too good that you have stuck in that organization? But then my job profile has changed. I'm one of the few who has worked into different centers of business line. I've worked on desk, I've gone into reporting, I've headed a team in Delhi. Then I came back to the state and I'm like working here. So yeah, it has been a journey.
Great.
But it's not,
Yeah,
it's
no,
not, it's not easy for women to be in this field. Let me also put it that way. Yeah.
of course. So just kind of one follow-up question that really comes to my mind is like, it's 30 years is a long time in the energy space. It has completely transformed the energy sector from just, really heavy fossil fuel energy deprived country to now looking at renewables and looking at all the above, embracing every kind of energy. So in this period, what has been some of your personal milestone, and what have been some memorable ones, and how has the journalism sector itself evolved, especially the energy reporting, with the landscape of changes in the energy sector itself?
There's been a complete change in not only in the energy space, but overall in the journalism space. The concept of reporting has really changed, and whether we like it or not, Google Uncle and Aunties and AIs have actually enhanced armchair reporting more. And the other thing is that anyone who comes into this field, everyone wants to become an editor. No one wants to be a reporter. So I could be wrong. People may not agree, but my personal experience is that we're having lesser number of reporters. And the successful people in this field, if you remember, for example, Shreya is reaching out to me, chatting with me. Why? Because I'm still visible. And what makes me visible or my brand is my writing. I'm known because of my writing. Now that's something, and only those names you see people who are on the field So that's something which is, going away. And the other thing is, when we started, like, I can give you an example. I was always a finance reporter, corporate affairs reporter, and I was established in that area. So when I moved to Delhi, I was in business 99, then I moved to Hyderabad, and then I moved to Delhi. So till then, I had not covered energy as a subject, as a beat. So when I moved to Delhi, and there was the person who used to cover earlier had to move out, and that's when I came into this sector. I have to tell you this: a dream of every business journalist is to cover Ministry of Finance, but I would say the person who has covered energy space, either it is power ministry or petroleum ministry or coal or mines, is actually become a true journalist, because you have corporates, you have finance, you have geopolitics, you have domestic politics, you have everything. So the canvas is wide and it's huge. So that's one thing. But to your question, coming back to your question as to what change I see, I see less of reading, more of jargons, and more of opinions than what exactly is happening.
I remember we were texting the other day and we were talking that maybe we'll have to resort to memes and reels for the new generation to read about this sector. You have your own podcast that you run, Energynomics, and I think that is one attempt to capture that new generation as well. But, if I can ask you to just look back again and talk about some of the memorable events, and this is my favorite questions to, journalists who are senior, who have seen it all in this sector. And I'm so happy you said that, covering energy sector is better than covering a finance ministry or something like that. But any milestones that you remember, a couple of them, which were like, if not career altering, but you would consider them a milestone, something memorable that you covered and it's still etched in your memory?
So yes, I can tell you that there were four stories which actually established me as an energy reporter. There are three, four stories, and the high point, if at the cost of sounding a little pompous, the high point of any journalist is when the government comes out and justifies that, okay. And it happened to me immediately within 7 months of me starting to cover the energy space. If you recollect, that time the oil minister was Mr. Manish Shankaraya, and I was very raw. And you have covered the energy space, so you know how it works. It's kind of a coterie. It works like even the journalists are like, so you really can't crack into it. At least people like us, it's not possible to crack in, because if you're always batting with a straight bat, So the entire team was in Iran. And as I mentioned, Mr. K. Venugopal, who's my mentor, and I am what I am because of that man. So, and I was raw to the beat. He called me one Sunday and said, Richa, this LNG deal with Iran has been signed. I said, yes, sir, the statement is awaited and we're going to do this too. He says, no, but Iran doesn't have a liquefaction technology. So how are we going to get it? Now, no one is here. All the key reporters, the minister, the government, everyone is there. And he wanted that story. And that's on a Sunday. You know how it is. Sunday, you're calling up people. You're raw to the beat. So anyway, it happened. One reached out. One got the story. And it was a lead in business line. The next morning, the entire team has come back from Iran. And evening, we are told there's a press conference by the minister. And the minister is explaining just this point. that how we are going to, yes, acknowledging, yes, they don't have a technology and how they're going to get it. So, this was one of the thing, and only after that, when your story was acknowledged and the government's coming out with a statement, that you start getting accepted in the field also. Even your journalist colleagues start accepting you. So, yeah, this was one of the incidents. Then there were many. There were certain stories on ONGC that happened, on Reliance that have happened. So over the years, yes, numbers have been taking place.
Great. I think this is a great time to dive into the topic. So I think, just starting off with like kind of understanding how 2025 was for the energy sector. It was obviously a very tumultuous year in terms of trade and, different back and forth on climate action and the situation at COP and US pulling out of COP and other climate negotiations, etc. So can you just tell us which global issues would continue to impact the Indian energy economy that were there in 2025 but would continue to impact in 2026 as well?
The biggest one was spoken by Geeta Gopinath, that the Indian economy is most impacted by pollution. But that aside, I was just having a conversation with someone, and geopolitics plays a very, very important role. Very important role in the entire energy space. And if you see, I transgress a little, that all the big wars have happened on energy or for energy, or energy is used as a tool. Now, as recent as the Ukraine war, Russia-Ukraine conflict, which is happening, what has happened? In the midst of everything is energy, in one way or the other. So, geopolitics will continue to play a very, very important role in this whole thing which is panning out. Yes, there talks about energy transition. There's talk about, whether fossil fuel will be there or not, whether coal will be there. That narrative, of course, the current American president has changed. I mean, like he started with drill, baby, drill, and then he said coal is beautiful. Coal is beautiful. India always knew that coal is beautiful. We have it in abundance, but we have our own issues and stories for it. So yes, what we a thing which will continue and will be very challenging. If I'm talking particularly for us, India, will be how we work out our energy basket. There are certain things which we have in abundance. So should we focus on them and utilize them and bring down our import bills on fossil fuel? A complete strategy has to be worked out, and ministries have to sit together and work it out. A marked difference which I see in the current setup in India is that the narrative of all the ministries is now the same. There was a time when what Ministry of Finance used to say was very different from what the Petroleum Ministry would say. What Petroleum Ministry is saying, the Coal Ministry had a different narrative. What Power was saying, these two had a different story to tell. But now if you see, everyone is talking the same. Now this is a major booster. And the biggest thing that happened was that this was the first time where the Prime Minister of the country, I mean, in his one of the first conferences, energy conference, when he had come, I think, in the first time, in his first stint as Mr. Dharmendra Pradhan was the petroleum minister then, he set a target. It was the first time the country's Prime Minister was setting up a target of how much we could bring down our import dependence. That's a different story, that it's still there where it was. But so, there is this effort, this attempt, and this acknowledgement which is coming from across all ministries that this is a very important aspect of our economy.
Thanks for this broad overview. You absolutely points on with that. I would like to now discuss a little bit minutely about some of the policy shifts that happened in India. There were significant policy decisions that the Indian government took last year, and some are in motion to happen this year. Like the new nuclear bill, the Shanti bill was announced last year, and then we were trying to realign our whole oil and gas supply chain, having a different partnership. Then this year we might see the new electricity bill finally seeing the light of the day. So you mentioned very rightly that this is the year India needs to really think what its energy basket should look like. So first of all, these policy decisions that were taken, what idea do you think the government is giving in terms of their energy basket, and how does it align with our transition goals?
I'm glad you asked that, Shreya. One thing is clear that the government of the day understands the importance of this sector. Now, the second point is, and that's where what I've been arguing throughout, is we should not shift our goalposts. The biggest problem with us is, why do we not talk biomass? We never talk. We have it. We can use it for resources. We don't talk about it. We have policies in place. We started off with solar, big bang. We did so much. We did wind. Our biggest problem is these transitions, these policies, all are wonderful, very good when executed, but we always leave them midway and we move on to something new. Now, everyone talking green hydrogen, green ammonia. Do you know where the market is? Do you know what the price will be like? How and what the dynamic will be? No, we don't know that. So our biggest challenge, our biggest problem, and this will be the problem for our energy transition process, that we keep jumping from one to other. Take one, take it to the logical conclusion, then move to second. What happened to the gas-based power plants? There's no answers. We're talking if Gujarat can become a gas-based economy. Gujarat is a very fine example in our country of how you can shift to gas. So if Gujarat can become, why can't the other states in the country can become? What is stopping us? I'm glad you mentioned the forever in making electricity reforms. I don't know for how many years I have been writing, then you wrote for quite a number of years. Now you're talking about opening of the sector. Okay, you're going to kill monopoly there. True, fair enough. But then whosoever will have a good pocket will succeed. We all know how it will work. Will you encourage the smaller players to come into the market? What happened to, let's draw a parallel with what happened to PNG. Where are we there? Pipe natural gas is such a good solution. What happened there? Now, LPG cylinders is a very important, it is a political thing also. It's very politically sensitive. So you can't do away. A certain section of our society does need LPG cylinders as well. So what happens there? So our biggest challenge, which will remain, and I hope in 2026, the government is able to resolve it. So all these, leaving things midway, then jumping on to the next. Whatever the West is doing, it's not necessary that whatever West is doing is good for India. No, it is not. We have wind in a hydro, wind, sun, biomass, rice. Why don't we use them for our generations? And electricity, power is just one aspect. There are others also, and the bigger challenge is that some of them are state subject. Now, federal structure is so beautiful, but then it has its own political challenges as well. So it's always exciting days in this sector.
Indeed, indeed. So just kind of asking a question about the green energy front. What's next for us? I mean, we have had aggressive RE targets, which are pretty much met. There's push towards more integrated grid systems. It's happening. DRE had a phase and it's coming back again. What else on the green energy front? Like, are we going to revise our targets, make it 1,000 gigawatts? What do you think should be the right way forward on this?
The toughest thing is to implement what is already there properly. And infrastructure, create infrastructure, whether it is green or fossil fuel. Storage is something we don't talk about. That is where the focus should be. So we don't talk about storage facilities. So even if we revise the targets, even if we go ahead and do things, I mean, unless we don't have the infrastructure in place, it won't help. So infrastructure is a key challenge, and our focus should be on infrastructure.
Yeah, I was just picking on some of the key words that you said: federal structure, policies, and announcements being left midway, and announcements being made without much thought given to the infrastructure creation. So I wanted to ask you, in our energy transition story, I see this being on repeat. We started our DRE journey and then it was left midway because we were told that there were not much private sector interest. Same, it seems to be happening with green hydrogen as well. And there are multiple such examples. Our electricity mobility journey started with these ambitious targets, and now it is just companies investing into electric vehicles but not much talk about infrastructure creation. My question here is, I don't want to do blame putting, but do you think that this is just a federal democratic structure that is to be blamed, or there is a lacuna in the planning where the center just decides what the policy is, thrusts it upon the states and various stakeholders, rather it being the other way around, something that now several states are clamoring about?
See, it is more to, I would say it's more to do with the federal structure. It's the politics which happens. Why certain things, when it is the same government in the center and the state, the implementation process is much easier. For example, take Telangana for example. In Telangana, right now, the government of the day is not the same as who it is in the center. So, Discom Health is a challenge. Revival project is happening. Performance linked subsidies are coming, budgetary grants are coming, whatever, the way it is working out. But the preferences differ. The negotiable aspects are different. And there are certain baggages which the governments are carrying. The baggages are, and before we move any further, we should not forget that the easiest revenue earner for the governments is energy, whether it is petrol, diesel, or electricity. The tax components, the local tax component, so high there that it's easy to, so neither the states would like to let go of it, nor the center would like to. It's easy money, you're not doing anything. It is Richa and Shreya who are paying it. So, it's easy revenue, which no one wants to let go of.
Do you think because of all these problems, this whole energy bill that is being coming up again, hopefully, would also not reach the success that is being expected, this opening up of the sector for the private companies to come in, because the same problems are there, as you mentioned, everyone thinks about the politics first, and opening up this big power distribution sector for the private companies to come in would lead to I don't want to use the word, but maybe protest and rioting. But we have seen that happening in several states. Would what would and also, if you can have a note of advisory there, what can be done different this time that this sector finally comes out of the shadows?
See, Shreya, there's a very fine example, GST. GST is a council where everyone comes on board, and the country's biggest tax reform happened with such smooth sail. So why can't we have a body like a GST council where all states are represented, you sort out everything, and then go ahead and implement it, build a consensus, then go ahead and do it. Our problem is you decide and other have to do it. No, it doesn't work like that, because every state has its own character, its own personality, its own way of implementing things. So why can't you have something like a GST council in energy space also, where you take decisions, sitting together, talking, working it out, and then implementing it. For example, we spoke about Shanti Bill, right? Now, what have you done there? The tariff is centralized. Who's going to decide the tariff? Now that here comes the challenge then. I mean, end of the day, it pinches our pocket. Who is going to decide the tariff? Everything boils down to that. Why is green hydrogen not happening? Who's going to decide the pricing? Why gas did not succeed in the power plants? Because it was tariff. The challenge which green energy faced, solar faced, thing. So we need to have a proper structure. You can't just someone sitting in New Delhi cannot decide what Hyderabad will do or what Bengaluru will do. You have to have a consensus. You have to work together and then build on it. I mean, then only it can happen. You cannot play politics over energy. But unfortunately, that is what happens, because that gets you the vote. The free gas cylinders, move the bijli, all that gives you the vote. You win elections over it.
Right. So speaking of consensus, so thank you for explaining the need for consensus domestically within states and center and all that. But talking of consensus with other partners globally, so India is the host of BRICS this year, and themes like inclusive growth, sustainable development, etc. are floating. So what do you think India's strategy should be to push for its energy security, energy transition goals, as well as indigenous manufacturing goals in this kind of, tumultuous trade time, especially as the host of BRICS? India will have some heat in terms of, be talking about these issues. So would love to hear your thoughts on that.
I wish I could have said, wait for my column on Monday, then we'll talk about it. But yes, I know you're very, very right. A number to look at is, see the members of BRICS. One of them is among the largest producers of oil. One of them has got a super strength in green energy. One of them has technology. One of them is a consumer. You know which countries I'm referring to. I mean, all it's like, just look at it. I mean, globally also, when these are together, I think more than 50% of the entire energy ecosystem is taken care of. They are so huge among themselves. So yes, and there is, I think they came out with, if I'm not wrong, some 2025, 2030 energy agenda. I mean, what they want to do. They're talking about nuclear also. They're talking about so many things together. Use of technology, sustainability. Sustainability, I would say, is the most abused word nowadays. I mean, like everyone and anyone uses this word, but for the BRIC nations to come together and if they can join forces, then the American president has problem. But having said so, I would also like to make one point here that if you notice, for India, bilaterals work better than multilaterals. The kind of bilateral relations India has with different, in the current situation, if you go back a little in time, when Russia was putting, US was, sorry about that, US was putting pressure for Iran, for India to stop doing business with Iran. We had succumbed under pressure. We had brought our, crude sourcing and everything to zero from Iran. Whereas, cut to today, when we were under pressure to stop doing business with Russia for oil, what was our narrative? We are a buyer. Where will we get cheap? We will buy it. It's the same India we're talking about. But as you rightly pointed out, today, India's position itself has changed. India's consumption has become its strength today in the energy space because they want to sell and they won't have such a dedicated market than ours to sell their product. So, that has become our strength. Now, India's Russia relation is at a very different platform. Russia China is at a different platform. So, bilaterally, I think with bilaterals we work better. As BRICS together, what interesting thing also, I mean, I don't know how far it will happen, but we are talking about trading in each other's currency also. So that will also work out well for us. In the energy space, as I said, one of them, Brazil, can be a good for green energy, Russia for fossil, China for technology in solar and other space. So, and of course, nuclear we are talking about with all. So, what I would like to see is how the world reacts to the BRICS when we keep moving ahead, strength to strength, if I would say.
This bilateralism that India is doing in recent years, especially, it seems to be a shift away from what we were planning, say, 5 years back. Like immediately after COVID, there was so much push, and even before that, a little bit over all this make in India and completely dependent on indigenous manufacturing. The fate of it, the juries is still out on a lot of those schemes, including PLI. But now it seems the narrative on how we build our manufacturing is shifting a bit. You must have, I'm sure, observed that we are slightly opening up. We are saying it's okay if you get raw material from a certain country. It's okay if our critical mineral supply chain is built with these 3-4 countries. What do you think of this idea, this shift that is happening, and how fruitful would it be in our whole energy transition journey?
Shreya would say better late than never. We should have done this in the beginning itself. Because you cannot work with rigidity in business. I would take you to US. What does US do? For LNG, US says buy LNG from me. Okay, he tells India buy LNG from me. When India wants to negotiate on price, what does US say? It's a commerce deal. The government of the day doesn't interfere. It is the entities, the players, the corporates who negotiate the price. We don't get involved in pricing. That is what we should also be doing. We did exactly that for Russian oil. What did we do? We said it is for the companies to decide. Whoever is offering them cheap oil, they will buy. And mind you, there was never any sanction on Russian oil. There was sanction on Rosneft and Lukoil, who are the producers of, among the top producers of Russian oil. There are other players also. So now what Indian refiners are doing? They're buying those. Can Europe survive if Russia closes the gas tap? No, you cannot. You'll have a blackout. No, your economy is also dependent on it. So why don't you bully? Putin gave a very, very good statement. No, in that press conference, he says you're telling India not to buy my oil. You're buying nuclear fuel from me. So I think is that. The Indian government's positioning should be such that economics should rule, not politics, as far as energy as a space is concerned, because we are a very price sensitive market. End of the day, you and I are paying for it. And the government cannot see, technically, we have deregulation in petrol, diesel, right? But we both know that it's only on paper. There are days when there's no change in price, even if the market is changing. So for the politics, always in energy space, the saddest part is politics overrules the business dynamics. And there have been long arguments among a lot of people that energy policies should be independent of geopolitics. This you can do only when you have a mature position, and I think India is working towards it, which is good to see. Certain things, certain decisions which we are taking is moving towards that.
That's great to know, and that's a very high note to conclude this discussion, though I don't want to. I wish we could discuss more, go into many specifics, but we'll have you again. Thank you so much for talking with us. To our audience there, if you want to read something on India's oil journey, please pick up Richa's book. It's called Unfilled Barrels, and it's a very nice story about India's oil sector. As you must have all heard, she's such a nice storyteller. So thank you again for joining us here and talking with us. It was a very enriching conversation.
Thank you so much, and it was a pleasure chatting with both of you.
Thank you, Richa, from my side as well. What a pleasure.
And have a successful year ahead.
Thank you. The start couldn't have been much better than this. So thanks for that.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the India Energy Hour. Subscribe to this channel to never miss an update. To drop us a feedback, visit our website or write to us at theindiaenergyhour@gmail.com. We are on Twitter. You can follow at TIEH Podcast and get in touch with the two hosts at Shreya J and at Sandeep Pai.